Penrith, on the Nepean River at the foot of the Blue Mountains, has developed into a key Western Sydney city by the late 20th century. European records start in 1789, and Penrith grew from a rural river crossing and coaching stop into a municipality in 1871 and a city in 1959. Penrith enters written history in June 1789, when an expedition led by Captain Watkin Tench reached and mapped the broad Nepean River, about 18 months after the first fleet arrived in Sydney. The river became an early barrier to westward expansion, but also a focus for farming because of its fertile alluvial soils.
Please comment, like, and subscribe.
Land grants began in 1804, with Captain Daniel Woodruff receiving 400 hectares, 1,000 acres, on the river, marking the start of formal European settlement in the district. The first government building, a military depot built by William Cox around 1815 near the Great Western Road, underlined the area's importance as a guarded crossing and transport route. During the 1800s, Penrith developed from scattered farms into a service town on the Western Road between Sydney and the interior. Key institutions followed: a post office in 1828, St. Stephen's Anglican Church consecrated in 1839, and St. Nicholas of Myra Catholic Church opening in 1850.
Starting route to Garrison Point. Your first stop is Mulgoa. At the lights, turn left onto Station Street, then at the roundabout, take the second exit.
Transport infrastructure shaped its growth. A bridge over the Nepean was first opened in 1856, although early wooden bridges were repeatedly destroyed by floods, leading to reliance at times on punt services. The railway reached Penrith in the 1860s, with a station opened in 1863, turning the town into an important rail depot and gateway to the Blue Mountains and Western Goldfields.
At the roundabout, take the second exit. In 1 kilometre, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto Jameson Road.
Penrith was proclaimed a municipality in May 1871, reflecting its growing population and economic role on the Western Road and the rail line. Early councils focused on practical improvements such as forming roads, installing curbs and gutters, and securing funds from bridge tolls to deal with flooding and drainage problems. Penrith gained a reputation for innovation when, in 1890, it became the first town in the Sydney region and the third in New South Wales to connect to electricity and provide street lighting and power to homes. Public services expanded through the late 19th and early 20th centuries, including cultural facilities like a free public library in a School of Arts building. In the early 20th century, Penrith remained a regional service centre for farming districts but also began to suburbanise, aided by rail links and road improvements. Council introduced regular garbage collection in the 1920s, and low-lying parkland was built up using waste, mirroring practices in Sydney's Centennial Park. Post-war growth accelerated as Western Sydney expanded, and surrounding local government areas such as St Mary's, Castlereagh, and parts of Nepean Shire were amalgamated with Penrith between 1949 and 1963. Penrith was declared a city in 1959, and today functions as a major outer metropolitan centre for Greater Sydney, with historic churches, inns, and river crossings, to being a modern urban hub.
At the roundabout, take the second exit onto Jameson Road, then take the first left onto Mulgoa Road. At the lights, turn left onto Mulgoa Road. In about 2.5 kilometers, at the roundabout, take the second exit. In 1 kilometre, at the roundabout, take the second exit. At the roundabout, take the second exit. In 8.5 kilometres, arrive at Mulgoa.
Mulgoa, a rural village and valley south of Penrith, has a history that begins with the Mulgoa clan of the Darug people and evolves into a Cox family pastoral estate district, later a small municipality and now a semi-rural suburb within the city of Penrith. European grants from 1810 turned the valley into a hub of early colonial agriculture and prominent homesteads such as Fernhill, Glenmore, Regentville and Winbourne. The name Mulgoa is often linked to an Aboriginal word associated with the black swan, reflecting the bird life of local wetlands. Formal European occupation began when the first government land grants in the Mulgoa Valley were made in 1810, including 120 hectares, 300 acres, to Edward Cox, infant son of Captain William Cox. William Cox, who later built the road across the Blue Mountains in 1814, established the cottage, or Mulgoa Cottage, also known as Fernhill or Fernhills, around 1809-1810 as a base for pastoral operations. Through the 1810s and 1820s, large estates were carved out: Henry Cox's Glenmore, George Cox's Winbourne, and nearby Sir John Jameson's Regentville, with its grand house and associated village of workers' cottages and service buildings. Mulgoa Valley quickly became a centre of merino sheep breeding, cropping and later dairying, linked to influential colonial families such as the Coxes and Jamesons. St. Thomas Anglican Church became the spiritual and civic focus of Mulgoa in the colonial period, with its foundation stone laid in 1836 and the stone church completed by 1838 on land donated by the Cox family. Sir John Jameson was among its early patrons, and the first rector was Reverend Thomas Cooper Markinson. A small school attached to St. Thomas's served local children until the early 1870s, after which a Mulgoa provisional school, and later Mulgoa public school, completed along with a teacher's residence in 1883, provided formal education for the growing village population. By the late 19th century, Mulgoa displayed the typical pattern of a rural village with church, school, post office, and clustered houses amid surrounding estates. The 19th century saw diversification of farming, with vineyards, orchards, dairies, and piggeries developed on estates such as Fairlight and smaller holdings. In 1876, new owner William Jarrett modernized Fairlight with a vineyard, abattoir, piggery, and fruit packing facilities, while dairies operated on several local properties by the 1880s and early 1900s. Mulgoa gained its own municipal council in 1893, reflecting a population large enough for self-government and a district extending beyond today's suburb boundaries. However, economic downturns, drought in the 1890s, and later statewide council rationalizations led to Mulgoa municipality being merged in 1949 with Penrith, St. Mary's, and Castlereagh into a larger Penrith local government area.
In 1 kilometre, arrive at Mulgoa.
In the early and mid-20th century, Mulgoa remained largely agricultural, with dairying and fruit growing continuing on properties such as Fairlight and Winbourne, even as some big houses like Winbourne, destroyed by fire in 1920, changed function or ownership. The valley's scenery and historic homesteads attracted visitors, and Glenmore in particular is noted as part of the development of the Mulgoa Valley as a tourist destination in the early 20th century. Today, Mulgoa is a semi-rural suburb within the city of Penrith, retaining much of its historic landscape pattern of scattered farms, heritage homesteads, and a small village core centered on St. Thomas Church.
Arrive at Mulgoa. Arrived.